saying about the lack of money and things made me a little bit speechless about what I want to say. But as far as I know, these things are perfect, but you have to pass it on to the public for public awareness and things. And the most important part is the people who lives in Iran to know about these kind of things. So maybe they're gonna think about what they're happening behind in the society overall. And I guess the media can help. And my suggestion is the young generation, specifically nowadays, they're not really interested in so much reading, especially the document things. And I guess we can share it through the little clips, for example, and we can distribute it through emails, Facebook, whatever helps us to distribute this kind of information, to pass it to the people who lives in Iran. And I guess everybody has some people and who are connected to the people in Iran. And I guess one of the ways that we can do our share with this would be this, but as what you said, it needs some money and some expertise. And I have no idea if you did it before, because I watched a bunch of these things, but it was with the high density things. You can't go through email with them. You can go through the YouTube or whatever, but through email, you know, we have the limitation to pass the file and things. I guess this could be helpful for us to.
Yeah, we've been doing a lot more video now because of that very reason. Because the truth is, especially in this age when people are just clicking on things on Facebook and stuff, the 50-page report, it's tough reading. It's just, nobody's going to make it through the whole thing. So, I mean, with the exception of people who actually use this as evidence and things, and even policymakers just want the bullets, more or less. We need to do it as a foundational matter, but I agree with you that the messaging and the dissemination has to be different. So we've been doing a lot more video, and that's been good because we get a lot of hits, and I get feedback on it from people emailing and saying, I saw that, it was really moving. And even the media picks up on that then. I think they're more likely to watch a video clip and kind of pass it around. So I agree with you 100%. And I think we want to take that to the next level. I mean, right now we're speaking to somebody who's going to put together a short film about what happened in June 2009 and the months afterwards, and also ask people about what their predictions are for this year's election. And we hope to release that in May or so. So we're working on, I mean, I think that's an appealing project, and that's something that could get a lot, you know, bring a lot more awareness to the work and what it is that we're doing. Because there's two parts to it. We have to do the foundational stuff, but then we also have to make sure that it gets to as many eyes and ears as possible. And that's really where video comes in. I agree.
Is your organization concerned with the government of Iran? Like, can they order what you're doing? You're getting in the way?
I mean, our website is blocked, obviously. I think we all get death threats and things like that, of course, you know, I mean, this is standard. But in terms of I mean, well, our permanent office is in New Haven, so I don't think too many people are making their way over there to have face-to-face confrontations with us. So we haven't encountered anything so far. But you raise a really important question. I mean, security of witnesses, people who want to stay anonymous, people that we speak to inside Iran. Because actually, officially, it's a crime to collaborate in any sense with our organization. That's a crime in Iran. So, but a lot of people do. They call us, they email us for all those reports that we've put out. I mean, they have to be aware of the risk because we're not going to, the last thing we want to do is put anybody in danger. And it's not worth collecting somebody's statement if it means that then they would go to prison. I mean, that's crazy. But even with that, I mean, it's really a testament to how brave people are and how deeply they want to share their story, that even with those risks, they still get in contact with us. And they want to tell us what happened, and they want it to be a matter of public record. A lot of people we assign pseudonyms to, you know, aliases, we say it's not foolproof, but they do want to get their story out there. So yeah, there's a lot of risks in the work, but I think the risks are not very high for me or my staff. The risks are much higher for people who are inside the country doing this work. Because we are in touch with people, I mean, even teaching human rights. A lot of human rights curriculums in Iran actually use our materials. I know this because, and it's been really wonderful to hear that when they've come outside the country, some professors that would teach at university, they've told me that they referred all their students to our website and they actually used a lot of the materials and the translations. Because we translate a lot of human rights documents that are in English or French into Farsi that are unavailable otherwise. And they say that they use it. So that's great to hear. But I mean, there's all kinds of activities still happening inside the country, and those are the people that I think, you know, face the greatest risk and are really, it's not just like intellectual courage, they're showing personal courage. So, if that answers your question.
سلام میگم خدمت شما کاوه عزیز و جناب رئیسی. سوالامو خیلی کوتاه میپرسم و دوست دارم که به فارسی جواب بشنوم. خب من اهمیت مستندسازی رو درک میکنم. خودم هم با سازمان‌های خیلی زیادی صحبت کردم و همینجا هم میگم شما با اکثر بچه‌هایی که بالاخص بعد از گرین موومنت، بعد از جنبش سبز دچار نقض حقوق بشر شدن، خواستید اینترویوی چیزی داشته باشید، من نهایت تلاشمو برای شما انجام میدم. اما سوالهایی که دارم اینه که یک خیر مقدمی هم به شما بگم که به کانادا آمدید، کشوری که ساپورت کننده قطعنامه‌های محکومیت نقض حقوق بشر تو سازمان ملل هست و این نکته‌ای که جا داره که واقعا بیشتر بهش توجه بشه. خب ما اومدیم مستندسازی کردیم، من خودم به اهمیت این امر واقف هستم. اومدیم فشار آوردیم، آقای احمد شهید مثلا رفت توی ایران، یک روز آقای خامنه‌ای خوابنما شد، اجازه دادن که ایشون بره. خب آقا ما اینقدر انفرادی داریم، اینقدر زندان داریم، اینقدر اعدام داریم. So what؟ حالا حقوقی دوتا از دوستان هستن، وکیل هستن، میتونن بیشتر. پرونده رفت شورای امنیت. So what؟ شما صحبت از کرایم میکنید، خیلی زیباست. خب که این کرایم ها مستند بشه، زیباییش از این جهته که اگه آدم پیر بشه دیگه حافظه یاری نمیکنه، ممکنه اینها جایی ثبت نشه. Crime without punishment، کل بحث من اینه. ما چرا متاسفانه الان چیزی که باب شده، من تو گروه‌های حقوق بشری خیلی زیادی میبینم، تا میاد که به جمهوری اسلامی فشاری وارد بشه، سانکشنی انجام بشه، سانکشن سیاسی انجام بشه، سانکشن اقتصادی انجام بشه، وای 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 حقوق بشر فلان. نه، باید بالاخره یقه کسی که نقض حقوق بشر گرفت انجام میده رو گرفت یا نه؟ این سوال منه. تعارف هم نداریم، هر کسی یه ترم اقتصاد خونده باشه میدونه نمیتونی جمهوری اسلامی رو مجازات بکنی بدون اینکه مردم تأثیر نپذیرند. متاسفانه شما اگه بخواید شرکت تشتک سازی وابسته به سپاه رو هم تحریم بکنی، بالاخره اونجا 4 تا کارگر عادی هستن، اونها از کار بیکار میشن، تحت تاثیر قرار میگیرن. این واقعیته. ما متاسفانه چیزی که در عرصه حقوق بشر میبینیم، بنده حتی با سازمان شما فکر کنم اگه حافظم یاری بکنه یه اینترویو هم انجام دادم با دوستان، ولی مشخصا سازمان شما مد نظر من نیست. چیزی که ما در عرصه حقوق بشر داریم میبینیم این هستش که حقوق بشر کاوری شده برای دفاع از رژیم. من نمونه مثال دیگه ای بزنم. از قوه قضاییه کانادا مستقل‌تر سراغ دارید، شهردار تورنتو $3150 به یه باشگاه فوتبالی کمک کرد، اینو از شهرداری برکنارش کرد. ما چگونه میایم به خودمون اجازه بدیم قاضی که حکم دیپورت صادر کرده؟ ببینید واقعا کانادا سیاستش حقوق بشری، آمریکا قوه قضاییش مستقله. شما دیدید بیل کلینتون رئیس جمهورش رو هم کشین توی دادگاه. ما وقتی میاد قاضی حکم میده به دیپورت یک نفر، دلیلی نداره ما بیایم همسو بشیم با جریان‌های خاص. وقتی که ما میخوایم این نقض حقوق بشرها رو ثبت کنیم، فقط برای ثبت کردنه یا اینکه نه این پانیشمنت رژیم چی میشه؟
خب سوال خوبیه. But in order to get there, we have to document. اگه میخوایم تا اون رو بریم، باید مستندسازی کنیم. If we don't have the documents, you can't even prosecute someone. It wouldn't even be possible. You have a lot of passion, and I appreciate that because that's what's needed to actually, not just say things, but do things. I feel that you're a little bit frustrated because people talk a lot and they don't really do things. I wish there was a way to do all the things that I think a lot of people in this room and that all the community wants to do in terms of getting justice, getting accountability, and that these not just be buzzwords, that just words that people say without meaning. I've actually seen this happen in practice. I mean, the fact that, heads of state can now be brought before an international court and be prosecuted is enormous. But there's a long way to go. There's a long way to go before things are equal, before prosecutions aren't motivated out of politics, and that, there's a decision on who ends up in the dock and who doesn't. There's a long way to go. But what I wanted to say here today is that in order to even get there, what I want is that if there is that opportunity, and I think it can only happen through people with vision like yourself and others, the only way that that can happen is if we do this work. And often it's really thankless, it's long, it takes a long time. Our interviews are like 3 hours or more a lot of times. There's transcribing, translating, it's not glamorous at all. It's really time consuming. But if we don't do that, then we can never have these court cases. We can never reach certain outcomes. And I don't want to leave the room with the impression that, we're on the track to a court. I wish that were the case, but we don't know that. We don't know what's going to happen. But what we do know is that if we don't even collect this, some people already pointed out in the room that, some of the survivors of abuses are already leaving us. They're already not with us. And I don't want to see that another person who has a real story to tell leaves this earth without sharing it with some group. It doesn't have to even be ours, but just a group with somebody who can record it. I'll tell you one quick story. I was in Sweden interviewing Kurds for one of these reports about what had happened to them. And there's a Kurdish leader by the name of Sheikh Hossein, who's now dead. But he died in February 2011 when we were in Stockholm. And we attended the ceremony for him before he was buried in Iraqi Kurdistan. And I couldn't believe, there had been a BBC interview with him, but there had been no statement taken from him about all the things he had experienced, all his negotiations with what was the fledgling Islamic Republic and what eventually became the Islamic Republic. There was no complete record of that. And he had left us before we could do that, before anybody could get to him and do that. And that was significant. We don't want that to happen with anybody else, where there's things that they need to record, there's things that we need to hear. There's really a culture of strong oral history, not just in Iran, but in the whole Middle East. And to get people to start to put that into print. So instead of the stories just being told through the generations, but that it's actually in writing, will make all the difference. Or on film. It doesn't have to also be in writing, it can be on video, as you pointed out. But we have to do that part, that really important piece, that tedious, long time, painstaking piece, before we get to this piece, which is what you raised. So I'm sorry that I don't have a better answer for that, aside from we have to do this work today so that there can be something like that tomorrow.
don't be sorry. To compensate for this thankless job, I think we all more or less sit here thanking you. You're the front runner. You're you're creating the foundation on which the future will stand. History is written by the winners, and what you do is going to make sure that it's told in a true sense. I remember walking in Chicago, and I came across some Americans who were protesting about what America was doing to Iran. And I was walking by, I was a tourist at the time, and I wasn't aware of what was going on. And it was really interesting seeing non-Iranians so involved and so adamant about the injustice going on. And it opened my eyes to how many people out there actually care, and how many, I'm sorry to say, maybe Iranians themselves, such as myself, shamefully, may not be as aware as non-Iranians are. And so what you're doing is, aside from creating, this possibility of future justice, legal justice, you're also creating the platform on which, a lot of people, Iranian and non-Iranian, in the future will know the history of their country, and will have something to stand on when they want to voice their, the fact that they're unhappy with the situation. So for sure what you're doing is very powerful, very important. As tedious as it might be each night, whatever you're doing, please know that there are people who thank you.
Thanks. But on that note, it's really not about me. It's not about the center. The reason that I'm here, the reason that I want to meet people face to face and not just have an email conversation or just have you see me in a video or send out a press release, is because we have to start having this kind of collective conversation, because none of this work can be done without the entire community doing it. And all of you have come here because you have an interest in human rights, but believe me, and I'm sure you know this very well, that there's a lot of people out there in our community who would rather not hear about it, actually. And that's their decision, but I really hope that those numbers can shift more to trend to the people who showed up for this talk and have that move in that direction. And the only way that we can do that is by talking about it and by spreading the message, and that's where you come into play, because we can't do it on our own. It's everybody who has an interest in this work. But thank you. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Hossein Raeissi, because we've gone on for a while now. Okay, thank you very much.